Most people learn awk backwards. We copy commands, paste them, and hope that they work. But we've never actually been shown what each symbol means. We hope to just kind of soak up what each symbol means by osmosis or repeated exposure. As a result, when we see a complex awk command, our brain panics and kind of just freezes. Today, we're going to fix that. I'm going to do something for you that I really wish somebody had done for me. I'm going to dissect a standard awk command, symbol by symbol, so cleanly and thoroughly that you'll be able to understand what's happening under the hood and never feel lost reading awk again. Here is the command we're going to pull apart and inspect. We'll clear our screen, awk-f, pipe symbol, Charlie, print, $1, comma, $2, awk, PSV. Okay, it worked. But what the heck was all that? Let me show you step by step what is happening. First, to use awk effectively, we need to understand how awk looks at files. Awk operates on text files, allowing us to select and perform operations on different pieces of data from them. Awk looks at text files as a series of lines, and it analyzes these lines one at a time from top to bottom. Take note that the more official term for these lines is the word record. Each record starts on a new line and quietly ends with a new line character. You can't see it, but a new line character is what tells the computer that's the end of this line. So definitely use the more official term record when you're trying to impress a date with your Linux knowledge. Let's look at another important term when using awk, a field. Not only does awk look at files as a series of lines or records, but it also splits each record into a series of fields. Fields are chunks of characters separated by a delimiter. You can see in this example that the chunks of characters that make up different fields can be letters or numbers. In reality, they can even be symbols. What is inside a field does not matter to awk. All that matters is that those fields are separated by some sort of delimiter. A delimiter is like a flag or fence that marks where one field ends and the next one begins. Think of a delimiter as a fence between fields. It doesn't matter what kind of fence. It could be a chain link or a wooden fence. Awk would see either one as a boundary or delimiter. Now by default, awk uses white space as its delimiter. That could be a single space, a tab, or several spaces in a row. The size of the white space is irrelevant. The existence of the white space is all that matters to awk. But remember that white space is the default delimiter for awk. There is an awk option that lets us choose what we would like to use as a delimiter. You will see this option used in a little bit. Now here's the command structure of awk. You have the awk command, followed by any options you want. Notice the brackets around the word options. Those brackets tell us that the options segment is, well, optional. Use the options segment if you need to, but awk will proceed just fine without it. We'll review our example command in a minute where you will see all these segments being used. Next we have the pattern segment, which is also surrounded by brackets indicating that it is also optional. You can use this to search and select lines or records that contain field patterns, regardless if those field patterns are a name, an ID number, or whatever other characters make up a field pattern you'd like to select for processing. If this doesn't make sense to you right now, just hang with us because it will once I go over our example awk command. Next is our action segment. The action segment is surrounded by curly braces for two reasons. One, because the actions or transformations you type into the awk command must be surrounded by actual curly braces, and two, because the action segment is semi-mandatory. Semi-mandatory, you might say. Can something even be semi-mandatory? Well, in a way, yes. Because if you don't include an action segment, awk will just print the entire line or record that contains the field pattern that you give it in the pattern segment. And that behavior mimics the Linux grep command, so if that's what you wish to do, you might as well just use grep, because the grep syntax is easier to work with. We'll clear this. You can see here awk f pipe symbol Charlie awk underscore PSV. You can see that, or we could just go grep Charlie awk underscore PSV. and see you get the same thing. I have a whole video series on grep that will turn you into a grep wizard, so check it out for more info if you're curious. Going back to the action segment, we saw you can omit the action segment if you give awk a pattern segment that matches a field in your data. However, you cannot omit both the action segment and the pattern segment because this will cause awk to hang or freeze, like this. awk -f awk _PSV. See, it just hangs. So the action segment is kind of mandatory. In fact, the action segment is the most important and powerful segment of the awk command. It's the entire reason to use the awk command in the first place, because this is where you tell awk what to do with the data that you feed it. Now we arrive at the file name segment. This is where we specify the file or files that we want awk to operate on. If we don't specify a file or files, awk will just choke because it has no data to perform its operations on. Like this. awk Charlie. See, and it just chokes. Now let's take a look at our example command. When we type awk and hit enter, we're calling the awk binary, which is a fancy way of saying the awk program. You can see the awk binary's typical location on screen. If we just type awk and hit enter, the shell will launch the awk program. But if we don't give it any options or instructions, it will normally respond by showing us a short help message because it assumes we made a mistake. Like this. We'll just type awk, hit enter, and you can see once I scroll to the top here, it gives us the usage message saying, hey, here's how you use the awk command. Obviously, anytime we want to use the awk command, we cannot forget this keyword. Next, we have an option, -F. The -F stands for field separator, and it tells awk what to use as the delimiter between the fields of a line or record. Remember that by default, awk assumes that any white space in a record is a field separator. And it doesn't matter if the white space is a tab or a space, or even how big the white space is. I'll show you an example. We'll cat this file, awk ssv. You can see here the different fields are separated by white space. So we'll say awk print $1, $2, close curly brace, awk ssv. And see how it operates just fine. You can see in this case, I typed -F single quote pipe single quote, which tells awk to ignore the default field separator of white space and instead use the pipe symbol as the field separator or delimiter. I'll show you how this works. We'll do cat awk all, that would be weird, awk PSV. See how we have fields that are separated by a pipe symbol? So when we type awk print $1, $2, awk _PSV, it operates just fine because we gave it this pipe symbol to use as the delimiter. Also bear in mind that the -F is optional, so if I am reading a file with white space as the field separator or delimiter, I can completely omit the -F option and just use the default whitespace delimiter. Now, what is with the single quotes here? Well, the single quotes are for the shell, which is bash in my case. The single quotes tell the shell to make whatever symbols inside of them literals and to pass them to the awk command exactly as they are. If you want to know more about literals, review the video Cyber Supplement 1 Literals. Let's see this in bash. Clear our screen. We'll rerun that again without the single quotes here. And you see awk gets confused because we don't have single quotes. It thinks that this side of the pipe symbol is one command and this side of the pipe symbol is a completely different command. So it's saying, hey, if you give me the -F option, I'm going to need more information than just that. Next, we have the pattern segment. Notice how there is an opening single quote here. We'll touch on this in a minute. Just file this fact away in the back of your mind for the time being. Now, how about these forward slashes? Those forward slashes tell Awk that whatever is inside them is a regular expression, basically a pattern that it's going to search for. Now, regex, which is short for regular expression, is like a code for pattern matching. Super powerful, but outside the scope of this video. However, as a side note for those that already know regex, Awk uses the POSIX flavor of regex, not the PCRE style that you might see in languages like Python or JavaScript. So Awk's regex may work a bit different compared to what you are used to. Now the pattern we have in front of us is a series of letters that spell the name Charlie. So obviously we are looking for records in a file that contain a field with the name Charlie. With this command, Awk will perform actions on records in a file that contain the field pattern Charlie, and it will ignore records that do not contain the field pattern Charlie. Let me show you how important those forward slashes really are. We'll rerun this command, /Charlie, / and see how that works fine. But if we get rid of the forward slashes around the word Charlie, nothing happens. And that's because Charlie, without the forward slashes, causes Awk to interpret this pattern as a variable. And since Charlie is an unloaded variable, it evaluates to 0 or false, causing it to never match any line in the awk_psv file. If you don't know what a variable is, that's fine. You can check out Cyber Supplement 2 and where I cover variables. And if what I said about variables just doesn't make sense to you, don't worry, you don't need a full understanding of this at the moment. The purpose of this video is simply to dissect an awk command for you. So as long as you understand that you need those forward slashes surrounding your search pattern for it to operate correctly, you are more than fine to move on. Now we get to the meat of the awk command, the action segment. Now what's with these curly braces? The curly braces define the action block. The commands Awk should run only for those lines where the field pattern matches. The curly braces tell Awk, when the pattern matches, run the commands inside here. In this case, the command is the print command, which tells it to display data to our screen. After this print command, we have typed $1, $2. Awk interprets this as field 1 and field 2. In Awk, $sign doesn't mean variable. It's a field selector. It means give me field number X. $1 is field 1, $2 is field 2, $0 is the whole line, and so on and so on. Now let's see what happens if we only give it one field. We'll do cat awk ssv. You can see what that looks like. Then we'll do awk Charlie print $1 awk ssv. And it just prints Charlie. We can give it $0 and it should print the whole line. Just like that. Remember this single quote I said we would come back to here? Well, here's its twin at the end of the action segment. These single quotes are surrounding the pattern segment and the action segment. They tell the shell, treat everything inside these quotes as literal text. Don't expand variables, don't interpret special characters, just don't touch anything. Just pass these exact characters exactly as they are to the awk command. If you want to know more about variable expansion and what it is, check out the video Cyber Supplement 2 Variables again. It's the best explanation I've ever seen of variables. Lastly, we have the file name segment. In this specific case, we are telling awk to search the awk_psv file. But we could always ask it to search multiple files too, like this. Awk f pipe symbol Charlie print $1, $2 awk, and we'll do underscore and a wildcard symbol. There, we search multiple files inside the file segment by using the wildcard. Now, if we put our whole command together and read it out in human terms, this command says, awk use the pipe symbol as the field delimiter and give me all records containing the field pattern Charlie, but only print for me fields 1 and 2 from those records, and pull all of this from the file awk_psv. And that's the anatomy of an awk command. Once you understand what each symbol is doing, awk stops feeling like a chaotic puzzle and starts feeling like a precision tool you can actually trust. If there's another part of awk, or any Linux tool you want dissected this clearly, drop it in the comments. And keep pushing yourself to learn. Every little concept you master like this builds real confidence. That's confidence that shows in your work, confidence that shows in your interviews, even when it's just you in a terminal at 2 a.m. trying to solve a problem. So thanks for hanging out with me, and I'll see you in the next one.